Salutations, traveller. If you're looking for fear, you've come to the right place. Be prepared to join me as we look at the dark and seedy past of Aldrich. Keep it down in there, or no more fleshy treats. Up the close and down the stair, in the house with Burke and Hare. Burke's the butcher, Hare's the thief, Knock's the man who buys the beef. Such a catchy little ditty, isn't it? So, Burke and Hare smothered the waifs and the strays of Edinburgh town. These naughty chappies came from Ireland to work on the Union Canal, a friendship that would become rather infamous. Burke and Helen McDougall moved into a boarding house called Log's Lodgings, located in Tanner's Close at the West Port, where Margaret Laird, a widow, lived with William Hare as man and wife. This would be the beginning of a most gruesome partnership. How did it start? Well, it started when Hare became angry that a lodger, old Donald, had the nerve to die in his sleep, owing £4 to Hare for his lodgings. A lot of money. Burke and Hare removed his body from his coffin and weighted it down. They took the cadaver to Surgeon's Hall where they met Dr. Knox. The surgeon was more than happy to give them £7 10 shillings for the body, as it wasn't quite fresh. £10 was the payment if the body was fresh. The fresher the meat, the higher the reward. Dr. Knox, the anatomist, kept his hands exceptionally clean by not getting involved in the payments to Burke and Hare. After all, he had many eager trainee surgeons to do these menial tasks. On Halloween 1828, the final victim of this terrible gang came to an end when the body of Mary Docherty was discovered by James and Anne Gray under a bed. Helen McDougall tried to pay for their silence by offering £10 per week to keep them quiet. But it was a useless effort. As James and Anne, they reported Burke and Hare to the police. Unfortunately, when they got there, the body was gone. It lay on Dr. Knox's slab for dissection. But between the police and James Gray, the body was identified, and Burke and Helen, along with Margaret and Hare, were arrested. After a month of questioning and accusing each other, the Lord Advocate, Sir William Ray, offered Hare immunity to testify against Burke and Helen, which he was more than happy to do. On January 28th, 1829, William Burke was hanged here in Edinburgh to a crowd of over 25,000 people as they watched him dangle and jerk and do the hangman's jig. But what became of Hare, I hear you ask? Well, Hare got away scot-free, fleeing to England and worked, it is believed, with lime. The stone, not the fruit. And he went blind. Margaret claimed to not know anything about the murders and thought Burke and Hare were resurrectionists. And she, along with Helen, was also freed. Helen and Margaret were constantly attacked after the trial. Helen fled to the land down under, while Margaret barely escaped Glasgow and fled to Ireland to her family. Burke was hanged, and in a final, cruel twist of irony, his body was delivered to the Edinburgh Medical College for dissection by Alexander Monroe, who immortalised the event by writing a letter with the murderer's blood. As was custom at the time, Burke's skin was flayed and used to bind books and make accessories, some of which are still on display today, along with his skeletal remains, as dictated by the court sentence, at the university's Anatomical Museum. Well, that's all the time we have for today. Join me next when we will discuss Half-Hanged Maggie and Deacon Brodie. Until then, auf Wiedersehen, ciao, adieu, saraba, and have a good night.